You might have heard about Power BI or different visual analytics and interactive dashboards. And we believe that by integrating Power BI into your project reporting, you can really not only automate your project reporting cycle, but also you can really improve on your analytics and appraise the project team of project issues and mitigation strategies. But the problem is not many has yet tapped into Power BI, and they really don't know how to utilize this powerful tool to automate their project reporting cycle. So I have a very special guest and expert here today who is an expert on Power BI P6 and a certified Microsoft data analyst, Giancarlo Micah, who is going to share his expertise on this topic because he's the one who has trained hundreds of people to get started with Power BI, with someone who had no understanding or experience with Power BI to go up and running and transform their project reporting. So I really value your opinion, Giancarlo, on this question. First of all, tell us why not many people have tapped, I mean, project professionals have not tapped into Power BI and they are not really utilizing this must have tool in their project reporting.
Yeah, sure. My view on this is that Power BI is obviously a new tool. It's an emerging technology. Not many people has heard about Power BI. It was born recently in 2015, 16. It was born a little bit earlier than that in 2013, but it was part of Excel at that time. But it became kind of on its own as a tool in 2015, 16. So not many people have been using Power BI in the past. Before it was only limited. I mean, BI solutions, the business intelligence solutions were only limited to big companies where they could afford to implement like a ERP, an enterprise resource planning solution like Oracle or like SAP. So those software, they come together with a BI module within them, so that was really constrained to big companies. But nowadays, now that we have these open source free BI tools such as Power BI, Tableau, Click, I think more and more people are kind of realizing the benefit they can get off the back of these tools and implement those into their organizations and projects. And I think that there are so many other industries that are already tapping into these benefits, like, for example, IT, financials, logistics. I shared the other day some kind of statistics, and the source was Tableau, this other BI tool. And they were telling us in a comprehensive report that two of their clients, Lenovo and PepsiCo, they reported at least 90% of efficiency in the report production time just by using Tableau. So as similar as this, you can get this kind of benefits for your project delivery. And within the engineering and construction industry, I think this is the right moment to start tapping into these great tools. And I think that the wave is just forming right now. So if you are into surfing, this is the moment where you want to start kind of rowing and try to get that wave and be at the top of the crest, rather than just sit tight and wait, and then the wave will just crash on you. So I think this is the right moment for you guys to start tapping into BI solutions to get the most out of them, and obviously to provide more visibility, more predictability to your projects.
Well said, Giancarlo. Yes, that's the best time to join. It's a new technology. So if you are really interested to be ahead of the curve and really transform your project reporting, that's the time to start learning and adopting Power BI in your projects. And if you need help, we are here to help you. We have already developed a very comprehensive deep dive training on Power BI that you can just tap into and start learning from the expert, from Giancarlo. And this is going to be on Power BI tailored for project control professionals. So it walks you through the cost, to the schedule, how to connect different data sources on different facets of project control. So if you're really interested in being stand out from the crowd, as Giancarlo said, that's the time to join and really be ahead of everyone else and mesmerizing your colleagues with what you can do with your project reporting, not only automating that, but also creating amazing visuals and analytics. So that's the time to join if you're interested. So check the links on this video if you're interested in joining. Now, following to that question, Giancarlo, let us know. I know Power BI and incorporating that into our project reporting, that's going to be the future for at least on project controls for future of project control reporting. But tell us now for those who are already know that and already applying this in their project like yourself, tell us how the market demand is right now. Is it picking up? People or companies know about the importance of Power BI in their project reporting? Just give us some career outlook on how it is now, the market demand for those who know Power BI, and how it's going to change in the future.
Yeah, and I guess this is a really good question. Many of the people are wondering about if they are really gonna get any benefit of using tools and what the market landscape is at the moment. So for them, I really want to tell you guys, I think this is one of the biggest thing that is gonna come in the upcoming years. So you better be well fitted to embrace these new technologies and to get the most out of them. So if I want to share some insights on the market demand, just as an example, in the UK where I'm based in, I will walk you through the stats I found in the UK only. So just talking about the broad market demand, if we are talking about just data analysts, not necessarily talking about project controls data analysts, but data analysts as a whole, just in the UK, we have a shortage of vacancies of need of people who knows Power BI or knows BI tools, and you will find that only in London we are kind of missing about 12,000 people with capabilities on BI tools. And if you add up all the numbers you see here on the screen, you will find that at least 30,000 people are being are being looked for just to kind of join these companies and provide their data analyst solutions. And then if we want to narrow it down a little bit and just talk about project controls industry, so then you need to know that before having a BI experience for project controls was something like you even never get to hear about, and now it is becoming to be ideally to have this kind of skill set. But I think this will become later on in a must for any project control to know about this. And I'm saying this because I'm seeing this happening already. And if I can use the message from one of my good friends here in the UK, Chirag Shah, who is a really top recruiter in the UK for planning and project controls. The last time I saw one of his posts on LinkedIn, he was urgently seeking a senior project controls engineer who has got a Power BI experience. And you can see here the benefits this job offer was providing between 50 to 60,000 pounds a year plus benefits just for a senior project control that knows how to manage, how to leverage on Power BI, right? So that's one example, but at the same time, the other day I just came across to a different job ad where we see here for HS2. And if you haven't heard about HS2, this is the largest railway project we have in the UK. It connects 8 out of the 10 biggest cities in the UK. So this is a massive project and it spans over 20 years of time. So it's massive project, a really huge budget. I cannot even mention how big is that. And the complete project is about 50 billion pounds. So it's just massive. It's a huge project. And the other day I came across this job ad uh, for a vacancy based in London, where they were describing that the required qualification and skills. They were looking for people who knows about EVM and value management. They were looking for people who got some expertise with P6, Primavera P6 for planning and scheduling as well. But most importantly, they were looking for people with experience in data visualization. And that comes with Power BI, and it is really well clear name it there, just to create meaningful graph and dashboard. And I think that many companies are realizing that it's not only important to know P6 or to know a cost control tool. It's important to communicate, because if we want to kind of scroll down a huge schedule comprised of 90 pages, top management, they're not going to care about that. They just want to see a kind of the main drivers, the main outputs. And people like us, people who are in project controls, we are the ones who are there to provide this simplicity in the message. For doing that, we can leverage using BI tools like Power BI. So I hopefully, that gives you a little bit of a good taste of how the market is looking now and how more and more companies are requesting BI experience in their job vacancies.
Well said, Jinkard. I really like the fact that you said it might be optional or ideal now, but it will be a must in the future. So, if you really want to be ahead of the curve, the best time to join and learn this is now. So, make sure that you start learning and applying this in your projects. And Power BI is free. You can start experimenting with that. And if you want really extensive, detailed guidelines and training, we are here to support you. So we have the training available for project control professionals. So make sure you check that out. That's going to not only transform the way that you're reporting on your projects, but also you can take your career to the next level. And with all the stats that Jim Collier showed you, that's the proof that we are really at the start of the curve and companies are really asking for it. So if you are really learning this, you will be ahead of the curve. So now for those who are really interested on getting started, Giancarlo, what's your advice for those? Just give us three big tips or strategies for those who are really interested in getting started and being ahead of the curve by learning Power BI and applying that in their project reporting.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure, really. I want to share as many advice as I could, because it was hard for me, guys. It was hard at the beginning when I started my journey. It took me about 3 years to become really an expert in Power BI, but that was only because I didn't know where to go to get really good and proper training focused on project controls. That was my day-to-day job. So I started like using kind of YouTube free tutorials, or like when I was doing my MBA, I was introduced to Power BI, but those courses was kind of focused on finance and HR and these kind of topics. But I just saw the opportunity there to see how we can kind of uh, take these advantages from different industries and how they're using BI solutions and how we can implement those into the project controls scenario. So my advice for you guys, just to kind of try to streamline a little bit your process. I will say I will start from the basics, honestly, and I will tell you the first thing you want to do is, I know that Power BI is exciting. I know that populating a report is really exciting to see how you can create interactive dashboards. But the first step you always have to bear in mind is first focus on requirements. And I learned this kind of in the hard way, in a tough way, because At some points, I was spending so much time building up really nice dashboards and visual that I thought they were going to provide a really high impact to the audience, but I didn't pay attention really to what the audience wanted to see. So I just sat there trying to create something, but in the end, I spent hours, and the output was not really what they wanted to consume or to kind of understand. So focus on requirements, that best advice. So we shouldn't be creating dashboards for the sake of having fancy graph. We need to focus on what people expectations are. And from that point, we start building up our dashboards. So that's my first buy. Focus on requirements first before kind of opening Power BI, guys. Then the second one, I would say, when using Power BI, so once you start getting more and more experience with Power BI, when you start using this, you will find that your mind is going to play you a trick and will try you to think as you were using Excel rather than the way you should be thinking about Power BI. And when you are using Power BI, you want to think of data sets, databases. There is a slight difference within that because within Excel, you have the columns and rows, you have your cells, and it's kind of a data set as well. But the thing is that you have this kind of flexibility within Excel that it can prejudice the output you're going to get because you have this you are able to define different formulas for specific cells on your spreadsheet, and that's where it comes messy because you start kind of forgetting and you don't know where this formula is coming from because different cells have different formulas, and that makes, even though it is providing flexibility, it's again very manual process. It is again kind of leaning to having more error within your formulas. So that's where you want to rethink the way you use Power BI. You want to think about data sets. When you apply a formula within Power BI, you want to think a formula that is applied to a matrix, and that will apply to an entire column. All the rows will be applied with a formula when you start creating those within Power BI. So my second advice is start thinking about data sets rather than isolated data spreadsheets. Okay, so that's my second advice for you guys. And finally, the third one is just be fearless, right? Results won't come if you don't push your limits to try to achieve them. So whether you want to self-train yourself, you want to take a training, specialize in Power BI applied project controls, I think you really want to get as many resources you can just to try to streamline all the pain I went through when I started kind of 3 4 years ago. So you want to start knowing about what are the best practice for building up reports in Power BI for the project controls industry. So be fearless, start playing, start getting your hands on, but at the same time, try to get as many resources as you can just to streamline that process. Otherwise, you can get kind of knackered by this and you can get overwhelmed with all of this information. So you want to make sure you have a nice and pleasant journey with Power BI.
Great tips, Giancarlo. Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights on Power BI. And as Giancarlo mentioned, if you are interested in expediting that learning curve, you may consider the training that we have for you on Power BI Visual Data Analytics. The detail is either on this video description or inside the video. Check that out if you're interested. But there is no excuse whatsoever. So you can just go ahead, download Power BI for free and start experimenting with it. And these three fantastic tips that Giancarlo gave you can get you started. So thank you so much, Giancarlo, for sharing your insights on Power BI, the career outlook, and how we can get started on this. I'm already very excited to learn Power BI and cannot wait. So thank you so much for sharing your insight on the topic.
Thank you all.